Hey guys, and welcome to another episode on Thelearningdroid. So, today what we're going to be having a look at is laser patterning again, and a few little things about it. So first off, you will notice that my writing is back to front. This is because when we laser pattern, we're going to turn it over. And because we've turned it over, the pattern is now the other way round. So the patterns are all going to be flipped when we do it. Next thing, when you laser pattern, you really want nice clean lines. I've actually left the shadow mark on this by accident on Microsoft Word, so on the Office program. So this has shadows, which isn't really ideal. You want the finest, cleanest lines you can get really when you're doing patterning. You don't want big areas of black, simply because the ink will mar the wood slightly. You'll have ink on your wood. You won't necessarily want to burn over all of the ink. So you might end up with a bit of a problem of excess ink, and it's very hard to get off because it does liquefy, and because it liquefies it actually goes into the wood. It's not like charcoal or something like that that sits on top. So we've got our words reversed and we've got our laser printed pattern. As I've said in previous videos guys, if you want to know if it's laser printed or inkjet printed, what do you buy? If you buy ink, it's inkjet. If you buy toner, it's laser. You can always usually tell by the price tag. A cartridge for an inkjet printer will run you between £3 and £15. A block for a laserjet printer, a toner block or a toner cartridge, will usually cost you upwards of 25 to 60 quid. And the amount that they do. An inkjet printer cartridge, usually about the size of an old tape cassette, or the size of an iPod for those of you who are younger, and will do probably a couple of hundred sheets, whereas a toner cartridge, much bigger, size of a small sort of roll of kitchen towel, something like that, and it will normally do 10,000 sheets or similar. So this is laser printed, which means that it's safe to transfer. The reason it's safe to transfer is this ink is supposed to be heated up. That's how the laser printer transfers it from the paper, or from the inkjet toner, the laser toner, onto the cartridge, onto the paper. Right, I'll try that again. That's the way the laser printer transfers it from the toner cartridge onto the paper. It heats it up, turns it into a liquid, and it applies it directly onto the paper. This is cheap paper. It's got no coatings or anything on it. It's not photo quality paper, it's not premium paper, it's not heavily bleached paper. There is an issue of the paper has been bleached to make it white. All white paper is bleached in some way to make it white, or it's had all the colorant of the natural wood fibers and things removed to make it white, and it's all going to have been chemically treated in some way. But actually, in this case, buying the cheaper papers is probably better because they've been treated less. So buying cheaper paper, and then again, cheaper paper, you're also not paying as much. But there is a safety concern about it has been bleached. We are heating it up. If we scald it, we're going to get smoke. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we've got airflow, and I didn't show this in my previous videos. It's ideal if you're wearing a vapor mask, not a dust mask, a vapor mask. They're the ones that have proper vapor filters on them and tend to be reasonably expensive. I've actually found a cheaper version that's supposed to be very good, so I'm going to be using that one. But at the moment, if I turn my camera, ta-da, we have a desk fan. And all that is, that's going to be my airflow, and it's going to keep nice, cool, fresh air blowing across where my face is. So literally, it's just going to point just below where my face is. So it's going to be pointing maybe 2 or 3 inches above the piece I'm working on, the airflow. And that's just going to keep all the fumes and things heading out towards an open door. So guys, make sure you can see. This is going to be a multi-part one. So what have we got? We've got our single temperature solid bit pyrography machine. These are far better for patterning than wire tip machines, simply because that's the way they work. Because they're solid bit, you can have this nice big flat bit in the tip, and it works better for patterning. So we plug her in, and we pop her down on a little secured safety mount, like so. Now while that's warming up, I'm going to turn my fan on. Which will be this one. And we're going to pop that on to a nice steady setting. I hope the sound isn't too loud, guys. It may be a little bit loud because the air will be flowing over the microphone, but we have a nice powerful blast of air. Show you how powerful it is. There we go. It's standing up my sheet of paper. It's a nice powerful blast of air, and that also shows you where it is, because from here, as I tilt it up, there we go, it's being caught and it's blown over. So that's our thing. So this is our pattern, and what I want is I want the barn to be here just after the arrow. Then we're going to have the words pop down there, and then we're going to have the raccoons. So basically, with the words the right way round, it's going to be like that. So the words would be the other way around, and the images, of course. So that's nice and hot. So first things first, we've got a spare bit of paper on the end here, spare bit of wood, and we're going to make sure that we're not burning ink or anything like that. So good, that's not burning the paper. So make sure I've got lots of nice spare cable. I'm going to take my paper and line it up on the project. Now I've got a nice bright light above me which lets me see through this 80-gram paper, which is another advantage with using nice cheap 80-gram paper, if this cable would get out of my way. So I'm going to line that up a little bit higher up. There we go, that's lined up. So now I'm going to transfer the pattern through. And when you're transferring pattern, guys, it is all about just heating up the ink and waiting. Laser toner or laser printer ink, when heated up, will turn liquid, and just like with old blotting paper, when you used to write something down with an ink that was very, very liquid and wouldn't dry very quickly, and used to blot it up so that it dried quicker, so you took up all the excess ink, all we're doing is we're liquefying the ink and we're essentially blotting it down onto the surface. So that's all we're doing. Now this is very resinous wood, so I don't expect the pattern transfer to be brilliant, and it's very soft wood, so there's a risk of heat scarring the wood or scorching the wood as I go about transferring the pattern. If you're new to transferring patterns, you might want to be very careful cutting the pattern, and if it's thicker paper, you'll be very careful cutting the pattern when you cut it down to a small piece of paper. That way you can use the edges of the piece to line it up. And you can also use masking tape on the corners where you haven't got any pattern to attach it to the bit of wood. If you attach it to the bit of wood, that means if you've tried to pattern and the pattern hasn't been transferred properly, you can always go back, lay the piece of pattern back down because it's stuck down with masking tape in the corners, so you know that it's not going to be moved significantly, and just go back to patterning. Now this is a nice simple line design, so I don't have to be too concerned with the pattern because all the lines are nice and straight. So theoretically, as long as I've got the start of the lines and the end of the lines, I can just meet them up, join them up. But I'm still going to be nice and slow. Patterning takes a while, guys. It does, it's not lightning fast, but it's also quite relaxing, quite calm. Just a little bit of pressure, a little bit of heat. The paper's started to yellow slightly, but because I've got my nice flow of air across the top, I'm nice and safe. I haven't got to worry about scorching the paper, causing any fume problems. And I have scorched the paper a little bit, but not much. Haven't caused a lot of smoke. And what you'll get, guys, is you'll get this kind of cracking sound as you move across it. So especially if you travel towards bits you've already done, you'll get this almost like cracking sound, almost like pulling a sticker off a piece of plastic. And that's because the paper's actually stuck to the wood where it's transferred the ink across. So there you go, guys. There is our pattern. I know the video's upside down, guys, and my hands are coming in from the top of the video. It's just because with the camera I've got at the moment and the setup I've got at the moment, I'm trying to find the best way to sort of arrange everything so that it's all sort of really easy to see what I'm doing. And then with the next piece of pattern, we just do the same. I can see the line of the barn here, and I can see this line here. That's slightly tilted. I'm actually going for a really rustic look with these guys. So once I'm done with them, I'm actually going to be roughing them with a wood rasp around the edges. So if it's not perfectly lined up, it doesn't matter. Now, you should really check the heat of your thing on a blank piece of paper every time, just to make sure you're not going to ruin your pattern. But I was reasonably confident that it wasn't too hot, because I know how this machine works now. I've been using this for a while. This one's the Weller machine. This is actually a rehash of an old project, guys. I did a project for a family member for Orchard Barn previously, and it's just, ow, ooh, ha ha ha, do not touch the paper which you have just used to pattern, because that hurt. Yes, the paper does get very hot, guys. That was my own stupid fault. I was trying to hold it down over the letters that I'd just pyrographied or just pattern transferred. Once again, it's not too important because this is meant to look rustic, because it's going to be going on a sign. So I don't have to worry too much. I've got it lined up reasonably well. And as I was saying, I did a pattern for Orchard Barn before for a family member, and basically it was on a really thick piece of beech. It wasn't brilliantly done. It was actually, I think it was probably in total the third piece of pyrography I'd ever done. And while it was okay, the beech wood was a bit hard because I was using this machine and it's a single temperature machine. It's not really, doesn't really get hot enough to do beech very smoothly. I was beginner, I got caught on the grain. I had to spend a lot of time redoing and rehashing bits to try and get them to look okay. So I just thought, as that piece is very thick and is not brilliant, I just thought I'd give it another go again. These little black spots you're seeing turn up, that's little bits of sort of resin, I suppose would be the term, that are seeping up into the paper, because as you heat up the wood, the resin comes out. It's another reason why when using a resinous piece of wood, you really do want to have a fan. When you're using the sort of the less resinous bits of wood, it's less important when you're doing the patterning. I mean, if you scorch the paper, it's not good to breathe it in, but generally it's safe. The ink's designed to be transferred at heat. Yes, it's designed to be transferred at heat inside a ink jet printer, or sorry, laser jet printer, but the laser printer isn't airtight. There's no really dangerous gases that come off, and theoretically you're not getting the paper much hotter than it would if you were doing a really long paper, print run. So it's not particularly dangerous. Try and keep the bit flat, try and keep the pyrography machine held nice and tight in a nice vertical position, and a little bit of pressure. You don't want to sort of like bear down on it, but basically hold on to the pyrography machine and let the weight of your arm sit on the pyrography machine. Just relax your arm, let the weight of your arm sit on the pyrography machine, and that will give you the pressure you need to press the ink down and get that blotting effect that you want. Now, a lot of people will try and do this to try and get it to transfer across, and in truth that's not actually going to be very good to transfer. I've tried that myself, I've seen that method used, tried it myself, it doesn't work very well. I prefer this. Essentially you're drawing the pattern. So I've got an N here, and essentially I'm drawing the N roughly with the thing, and then I do it again, and then I do it again, and a few times, and then we have a nice clean transfer. So you can see a slight skip on the C where I accidentally touched the hot O and R, and the wood will be hot for a while, guys, so be careful with that. And finally we have our little raccoon characters, and I want, if possible, to tuck this guy up here, like that. Once again, going straight back to doing pyrography. The fan's actually cooled the wood down quite a bit, and I want to get back into doing the patterning as quickly as possible so that I'm not overheating the bit on the end of the pyrography machine, overheating the patterning bit. And solid bit machines do come with these guys, and they are literally called patterning bits. That's it guys, they are just patterning bits. Do not try and use design bits or craft bits or things like that for this. I have seen people do transfers with a household iron. I've actually done it with myself. I found that household irons don't get up hot enough, but another possible thing is a modelling iron, which is used for doing heat shrink material on model aircrafts, heat shrink plastics, that sort of thing. A modelling iron can get up to the same sort of temperatures as the tip of this is getting up to at the moment, and can actually be used to transfer across. If you've got a modelling iron, if you do that sort of thing, or if you've got a dad who has a modelling iron, or a brother who does lots of model planes and has a modelling iron. A veneer iron, a woodworker's veneer iron, that would work as well. So you've got a couple of different possible ways of doing this, and there's our little raccoons tucked up under there. So this is going to be the new pattern for the Orchard Barn project. I'm sorry that you're all looking at it upside down, but I'm trying to find the best place to put the camera so that I'm not knocking it with my elbows, and so that you're not looking at it from the side either, so that you're actually looking at straight on. I'm going to flip this video so that it looks like no, not the camera's the right way around. I'm going to keep this video the way it is. My hands will be coming from the top of the screen. If you want to leave me comments, guys, leave me comments. Comments in the video, comments on the Facebook page, which is Thomas Bott's Custom Pyrography. Likes and subscribes are always enjoyed. I got a brilliant message from a woman on Facebook, which I really appreciated. She was really nice and friendly, and I really liked the message she sent me. But if you think that you have ways of me doing videos differently or better, I'm also welcoming those sorts of comments as well, guys. I'm not all about the positives. If you have some negatives, if you think of a way for me to do this and arrange this better, I'm more than happy to do that. Now guys, I'm going to be putting this on the floor. It's hot, so that's a bit of a safety risk, but the floor's solid concrete and it's not been painted or anything like that, so it's nice and solid concrete, and it's nice and safe to pop this on the floor. Even though I'm popping this on a concrete floor, I'm going to be putting this down first, and I'm going to be resting it in here so that it's safe. And I'm going to be putting it somewhere where it's not going to touch anything, but where someone's not going to touch it. It's in the garage isn't used much. And then I'll be getting on to doing this project. Thanks very much, guys. See you soon. Welcome back, guys, to the patterning for the second half of the Orchard Barn project, or the second pyrography section of the Orchard Barn project, which would be the South Barn sign. Move this up this way a little bit. As always, guys, I'm patterning using my single temperature solid bit machine. I'm trying another position for the camera. Once again, safety precaution, we pop on our fan. Okay guys, so the patterning wasn't perfect this time. We were missing the bottom of the R and N, but we can work around that. And we're missing the bottom edge of the B, but again we can work around that. I think I was a little bit impatient this time. Scorched a little bit of the wood, or scorched a little bit of the paper, but that's fine. I have my fan running, everything's nice and dandy. I know the pattern over here is sort of running over the edge of where I'm going to cut for the arrow. That's fine. Burning up to the edge and then cutting it, that's fine. That will actually look quite good in my opinion. And once again, it's just a little rough thing to kind of give it a go. By the way guys, I've got this, I recently bought this and it's actually turning out to be quite useful. It's a dual-sided steel and brass bristle brush. Previously you may have noted that I cleaned carbon off my pyrography bits using a pair of tweezers and just a pair of pliers and just a little bit of friction. This is actually far better, both for the pyrography bits and for cleaning them, or for how clean they get. And literally you just use the brass side to brush. If you've got a lot of carbon, use the steel side to give it a brush. And it works really well, both with normal solid bits and with wire bits, with wire tips. So that's great guys, and we'll move on to the bird.